Happy Friday, everyone. Another Friday afternoon, another chat. Now, about a month ago, I was listening to someone talk about the guests that they have on their shows, and they were saying, try reaching out to people who have had a big impact on your life, books that you've read, people you've listened to. So the first person that came to mind was this guy, Peter Cox. A book that I read of his some time ago had a massive impact on my life. And just looking at it now, do you ever ask what is my destiny, my purpose in life, at a time where I was very much searching for that? And when I reached out and he said yes, he would chat with me, I was absolutely pumped. So welcome, Coxie, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Ian. I'm looking forward to it. I'm quite interested to know what sort of questions you're going to ask me.
Well, as I always do, we'll just see where it leads. So we were lucky enough for me, I'm hoping the feeling's mutual, to meet each other way back in, must have been about 2012-13 through a mutual friend, Doc. And we were close to getting you in at Fox Sports, but not close enough. So it's been great to continue to follow your journey, and to have you here is, I'm truly appreciative. So probably the best place to start is always around personal story. So how did you go, because it's a big part of what you wrote in that book and which fascinated me, how did you go from someone living in a pretty tough part of Australia, of Sydney, and very much working class, the Aussie battler sort of territory? How did you go from there to be able to build the businesses that you've built since then?
The only luck you have in life is the people you meet and the books you read. I heard that at my first conference I ever attended by a guy called Charlie Tremendous Jones, who's now deceased. And that really was a profound moment for me. And when I look at the association factor, which was the last chapter of my book that I wrote, chapter 10, I left that chapter till last because it was the most impactful in my life. That if you want your dreams to come true, if you want to find your purpose, it's going to be about who you connect with, who are your networks, who's your community, who do you associate with. And that was the game changer for me in April 1992. My wife and I had been 3 years into a business journey, and I met a significant business leader and entrepreneur who saw the good parts of my personality that could be returned into real leadership effectiveness. When I was growing up, people saw the weaknesses and the bad part of my personality, but they couldn't see the natural leadership that existed within me. And being led, allowing myself, being willing to be led by someone that was older and wiser than me was a game changer.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting because I think what you described there would have been a lot of people's experience when they were younger. Their actual natural strengths, their natural way of being wasn't necessarily supported by the school system. And for someone who's a conversationalist like me, there were certain elements that certainly didn't work. But I imagine for you, like if your brain was going 100 miles an hour, like the visionary thinker that you are, there may have been times where that certainly did not fit in with a school classroom when they're trying to get you to focus on one task.
Correct. I was seen as rebellious, talkative, disruptive, no attention to detail, which I still don't have today. It's not in my personality. But no one saw the fact that this guy could be a potential leader. Like he's, 15. Yes, he's disruptive, but he seems to have people following him. And yes, they were following me down the wrong pathway.
Yeah,
There's
right.
no doubt about that. And, I grew up in western suburbs of Sydney. I went to Bradbury Primary School when it opened in 1969, I think it was. Aird's High School opened. I was in year 7 in those days at Aird's High School, which would still today be one of the toughest schools in Sydney. I mean, that school I went to, kids went to school with baseball bats, knives, and if you couldn't fight or you couldn't run fast and run far, which is what I used to do, and I became a cross-country runner because I used to run home 5 kilometres because there were 2 brothers in particular that used to chase me and wait to beat the crap out of me every
wow.
single day of my life. So that's how my fitness grew. This is a true story. And then I ended up doing state athletics in cross-country championships, and all I have to do is imagine these two guys chasing me and I'd run pretty fast.
Yeah, I think my nieces and nephews, some of them grew up around that area. So yeah, I think you're right. It probably hasn't changed to a certain degree, but probably not as wild and vicious as it was in your day, perhaps.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm currently involved with the West Tigers, helping Michael Maguire rebuild the organisation and grow the players, and there's a lot of different discussions we have. So when I went back to Campbelltown Stadium for the first time with the West Tigers 18 months ago, I did see guys that I used to hang out with. But nothing much had changed in their life. And you could see they were looking at me like, is that Coxie? Because I've changed a lot. True story. Right. And half my mates are dead and the other half are in jail right now. You know, like if I was to really go and do some research, some guys really went down the wrong pathway. And I'm just lucky my mum and dad made a decision that, I didn't last at Aids High School. I didn't last at Trinity Grammar, where my mum and dad thought, well, let's get him into a private school, and they worked 2 jobs to put me through that. And I broke the record for the most days wagged in one particular year, and I was smoking my B&H cigarettes, and I was still winning cross country races. I was rebellious. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what was inside me. And my parents made a decision to shift me to Cronulla, and that was a big turning point for me, being able to take up surfing and go back to a co-ed school. And that was really the beginning of some real positive change in my life, where I moved away from the association of all my connections and had to rebuild a whole new in that network of friends, which was difficult, very difficult at the beginning.
Yeah, I imagine. So what a blessing to have parents that were prepared to give you chances in other areas to try and, well, not to try, but allow you the space to be able to move forward and to get you where you are now. And I know this is something you're really passionate about now as a husband and as a father. So what parallels can you draw from what your parents were able to provide for you, and how that's been something that you've made a real passion for yourself? Yeah, my parents moved here in 1965 from London when I was 2 years of age. Sadly, You're English.
Sorry?
You're English. Is that what you're going to say?
I'm actually English, and I'm actually a Tottenham Hotspur supporter, which means we don't win anything, but that's okay. Yeah. Ian. Yeah. Right, so, but my family history, my grandfather drove steam trains in Mumbai, India. So my dad was born in India.
Wow.
And went to boarding school there for 15 years. And then with a couple of shillings in his pocket, got on a boat and went to London, and he became a boxing champion in the British Army, and he became a world-class hockey player, and he played county cricket in England. So, and he left home when I was getting into trouble at 16. He was already starting a new life in another country. You know, so, and my mum was born in Shanghai, China. My grandfather was French. My grandma was Ukrainian. My grandma was married 5 times on her journey of life.
Wow.
So I come from a very dysfunctional, different sort of background, multicultural. And I saw my parents, just work. They had a work ethic to provide for myself. And then when my sister came in life, I saw them work through marital issues. A couple of times there, they were just about to bust. I saw my dad go away for 2 years to work in Indonesia. He was an electronic engineer for a company called STC, Standard Telephones and Cables. And my mum raised us as a single mum for 2 years while he could make money over in Indonesia. So I remember all the price that they paid. And they had a dream for their children to have a better life and a better lifestyle, and give us a better opportunity. And so that really impacted me significantly. My mum's 83 today. My dad's 85. She's got stage 2 Alzheimer's, going into stage 3. And there was a period there where I didn't have a good relationship with my mother. I always had a great relationship with my father, and I learned through leadership how to forgive and how to rebuild that lost connection with my family, which has been really good for the last 15 years. But the guy that was leading me, that was mentoring me, told me, Jim said to me, if that phone call comes tomorrow and your parents have passed away, you don't want any regrets.
Yeah.
You know, and that he led me strong. He said, fix it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I thought, you know, that's been 15 years since we've done that. And now, you know, we've never been closer, obviously. And I did say to my dad a couple of months ago, I said, it's probably good Mum's got Alzheimer's. And he said, what do you mean? Why would you say that? Because she can't remember the 70s and 80s. And he went, that's a really good point.
So you've all still got your sense of humour through all of that.
I think you have to have humour, and I think you've got to be able to laugh. People don't laugh enough. They don't have, and obviously with what's going on in this crazy world today, whatever you can do to bring a laugh and a smile to people.
Yeah, 100%. So it's interesting that conversation you're having 15 years ago with your dad. 15 years ago, like my dad left this earth, and I didn't get to have a lot of those conversations with him. And so that's an area I'm passionate about as well, because it's like you don't know when that day will come. And you want to be prepared. You don't want to walk away from that opportunity, not having the opportunity, not having given yourself the best chance to actually mend whatever bridges need to be mended. So I really like that. You touched on something before about, we were talking about, you know, where your change had gone. You'd gone from all of these really challenging times, and you were someone, and amongst a group that didn't happen, you broke the norm and went and pursued a completely different life. So now when you're working with young footballers, this is an area that I'm strong on, and from everything I've read about you, you're the same. You can't go in necessarily into an environment and expect these young men to instantly change their behavior. We have to be able to give them the tools to actually create real behavior shift. Not go in and build more rules that limit them even more, because if you don't change the behavior, they'll just still break the rules, right? So how do you go about going into that environment and being able to create real behavioral change for these young men?
You build a successful organisation one-on-one. You can give as many speeches as you like as a business owner or as an elite sporting coach in the dressing room, you know, pre-game, post-game. But if you are not spending one-on-one time individually with people that are under your leadership, because we all have different needs. There's 4 different types of personalities. There's 5 different love languages. When you combine personality strengths and weaknesses with the 5 different love languages, you can meet the needs of people. And we all have different needs, and we need to be communicated to differently. And Roosevelt said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you want to bring about change in people, as long as they know that this guy really cares for me, which I do, because I've been involved in over 300 NRL games, and I've got lifelong relationships with young men that were 21 that are now, 38 now. You know what I mean? Like, and it's real special, because the greatest test of a leader's ability is to bring about positive change in the lives of the people they lead. That those people want to follow you, not that they have to. I have to go and follow this leader. No, I want to follow this leader. And if you want people to want to follow you as a business owner or as an elite sporting coach, you've got to change the heart and spirit of that individual. Because like me, I've shared a bit about my background. I had baggage, I had hurts, I had unforgiveness. Okay, so where no one avoids that in life, it's called life. Life's not fair. There's 22 different emotional tones of people. If you want to go and Google Abraham and Hicks, there's 22 levels of emotion, which I use one-on-one with my clients. And at the top is joy and appreciation, and at the bottom is anxiety and depression and grief. And we can go up and down these 22 emotions. So if you want to bring about effective change in people, you need to know, where are they emotionally today? Not last week, not next year, right now.
Oh, wow. I did not know this conversation was heading that direction. But yes, I I agree. Go search Abraham Hicks and look at emotions, because this is what I wrote about this yesterday. People don't allow themselves to feel these emotions, right? And we need to be able to allow ourselves to feel, to be able to move past them. As you said, if we hang on to these things that we're not forgiving, the baggage that we've got, then we can't move forward. We can't change that behavior. So what's been your biggest lesson personally around letting go of something, and how did you go through that?
Letting go. Okay, so in 1996, we had a significant catalytic bad moment in our life and in our business journey. And it wasn't about money. A lot of money was lost. It was about the relationship with people, that connection, that bond. And it really, really hurt us, because we assumed that this would never happen to us, the four of us. And it took us down a really dark tunnel. And we had rage, we had resentment. The world is against us. Everyone can go and get stuffed. You know what I mean? Like, okay, right?
Yeah.
And that was, we had 96. So I had a boy, Jared was 4 or 5 months old, and Dane was, the oldest son, was 2. When I think about that,
Yeah.
So we needed to connect with some people outside our business environment that we trusted, that sowed some real wisdom into us. And we also needed to look at what could we be grateful about, because if you can't be grateful for anything, that resentment and that unforgiveness will build. And we were grateful about having 2 beautiful young boys, healthy. Okay. Yeah. And so we made a drive to, I think it was Prince of Wales Children's Hospital. And we walked through the cancer ward for 2 hours and watched parents watching their young kids die of cancer between the age of, 0 and 5 years of age. And that snapped us out of it that day. We had to still deal with the forgiveness, but we weren't victims anymore.
Yeah, wow.
We had gratefulness that we still have our beautiful boys. We can still go and, make more money and build another business and whatever. Okay. So yeah, that's where we're at. Mm-hmm.
Perspective is an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you obviously, like, that moment was pivotal. You must have also got some incredible guidance through that time to help you navigate, because those times when they show up, they're rarely as simple as one moment that chips us out, right? There's like a build up of actually being ready to face that moment. There's the guidance before and after to make sure we're still heading in that right direction. So like, yeah, who were those people? We don't have to necessarily name names, but what sort of people were they that you had gather around you, or that you sought out to help you through that time?
Yeah, my mentor in the US, Jim, that is probably the smartest man I've ever met on planet Earth. And he was a very, very wealthy entrepreneur. He was an aeronautical engineer by background, but then he ended up building a global sales and marketing business that it was just phenomenal. And that's where my leadership journey started, under his mentorship. And I learned lines like, do you want to win the battle or do you want to win the war? Because we all want to go into battle. And he said to me one day, is this mountain the one you want to die on? If you want to go into battle, let's do it. But is this the mountain you really want to die on? Or you think there's another mountain that could be coming? And that was really important for me, because I was, 1996, I was 33 years of age. I still had, now I'm 57. That's 24 years ago.
Yeah.
I had my whole life ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I don't think I want to die on this mountain fighting this battle. Now, the war is about the dream. It's like it's achieving that dream. It's about achieving that vision for our life, our purpose. So then I needed to work on, what's my purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing in my life? And that was the first point in my life where, because, when we started our first business, we had $11 in the bank. We didn't have a fridge. We had a brown Honda Civic. You change the spark plugs every 2 hours. I bought that beautiful car for Debbie as our wedding gift in October 1988. She was delighted. We had $11 in the bank. We spent more than we earned, and we partied hard. But I'd had 5 jobs in 5 years. I've been retrenched 4 times, sacked once, and I thought only 40 years to go, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and we were I'm the first person to ever go into business for myself in my family. Let's say the tree line's 250 years. First one to become a business owner, an entrepreneur, and because I was getting around business owners and entrepreneurs like Jim in the US and just getting different thinking and different perspectives. Some of the things I was learning I'd never heard of before, like leaders are readers. I hated reading books. Book bored me.
Yeah, man, that was me too. Like your book was probably about the 5th or 6th book I'd really finished to the end, right? Because I was the same. So one thing I know is that when you go on that journey, there has to be something within your heart that's actually pushing you forward. We have to align to some sort of purpose that's bigger than just us. So
Yes.
what, because you write about this, right? What part of purpose was showing up for you at that point when you knew you needed to change?
That I needed to change. Well, I knew that I had leadership in me, but I also wanted to live a better life than what I was living, and I was watching my parents. My parents loved me, but they worked and paid a big price,
Yeah.
So my mission statement, what makes me wake up every morning, is to build stronger leaders to live better lives. So whoever's watching this right now, if they take anything from this and implement it into their life, it's going to help them live a better life. And I've had clients ring me, not saying I bought my next Ferrari, I just bought a $10 million house, and some of them have done that. They said, Coxie, you changed my life. When you taught me about personality profiling, when you taught me about the 4 different types of leaders, when you helped me with my wife and our marriage, and you helped it, that's what I'm about. That's what drives me. And I suppose it gives me some level of significance, and it gives me some level of self-respect.
Yeah, and having done a lot of personality profiling myself, and I love that the light bulbs that work can fire off in people. So if you're really aware of that need for significance, that's very much aligned to your visionary way of thinking, right? Your innovative mind.
Correct.
Yeah. So how do you get that significance now?
That's a really good question. Being the best son that I can be for my parents.
Yep.
Because there was a stage there where my parents didn't see their grandkids, right?
You're right.
Okay. For 10 years.
Wow.
So when I talk about forgiveness, and now we've never been closer. And if you told me 15 years ago your mum and dad are going to stay at your house on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and you're going to watch the Boxing Day test with your dad, I would have said, yeah, whatever, Ian.
Yeah.
Okay?
Wow.
But all that happened. So I want to be a better. I want to be a better son. I want to be a better husband to my wife. We've been together 35 years, 32 years married. We have been through some highs and some lows together. And sadly, I watched her father pass away in New Zealand in May this year. We couldn't go to New Zealand because of COVID. We watched the funeral on webinar, or whatever you call it, and it broke her heart. So, and it just made me realise we've been on this journey and we've got more crap we're dealing with right now, and I'm going to stay rock solid and be the best I can be for her. I want to be a better father for my 2 sons. I want to be a better mate. I want to be a better leader. I don't want to be the same person next year this time, thinking the same way, behaving the same way. That's what drives me.
I love that, because it doesn't matter how much work you've done, and you're someone who's done a heap of work on themselves, you're still driven by that need to keep moving forward. That's great share, Pete, and I appreciate how open you're being with this. So very much your purpose is around family, and even when you talked about the impact that you have for other people, yes, it's around leadership, and yes, it's around them living their best life, but ultimately what they're getting from it and what you're getting from it is to see that improvement in their family life. So
definitely.
Is that something you talk about a lot in your training? Is it something you talk a lot about in the language that you use when you're promoting as well?
There are three key things that I focus on in leadership when I lead my clients. When I lead Michael Maguire, I've been with him for 6 years, West Tigers coach, South Sydney, West Tigers, New Zealand Rugby League team. Yesterday I was with a CEO of a successful business. We had a 4-hour one-on-one session, okay? And there's three things that I focus on. I have a holistic picture of leadership. Leadership's just a word. Leadership, yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Strong leadership thinking. I want to grow better thinking, because if you grow better thinking in that person, they're going to behave differently, because it's not about the results, it's about our behaviours. If we want our results to improve in life, Ian, we've got to change the way we behave. If we keep behaving the same way, nothing's going to change.
Exactly.
And that's where I was, at the very beginning of my journey, in the late 80s, from late 70s, really. Okay?
Yeah. So on that,
and the second thing is I focus on happy, balanced home life. There's no point you having strong leadership thinking and your wife's going to leave you, but you're a great leader and you got your whole business following you, you got your whole team following you. You drive a Ferrari and you come home to the big house and there's no one there. The kids are gone and the family's gone. And I've seen that happen, and I've helped some of my clients rebuild, and some of them haven't made it. Okay? It's a very lonely place to be, to have success in your life and a lot of money in the bank, and you come home and there's a cat and a TV there.
Yeah.
And that's where I was headed in my life at one stage in April 1992, when we first profiled ourselves as husband and wife, and it was a turning point to understand each other better. And then I took it into business and pro sport, and it's one of 50 things I do with clients. But understanding who you are as a person and who you are connected to, whether they're their spouse or people you lead, is vital to improve alignment and trust and unity and harmony. And the third thing is health and wellness. That's the holistic picture. If you're growing your thinking and you're growing your family life and you're getting healthier as a human being, you're going to become an effective leader. And then I ask brand new clients, first time I ever spend a one-on-one session with them, what's your weakest area? And they'll say it's my home life. They'll say it's unbalanced, or they'll say I don't think right, the other right. And then we got to start really focusing on one, because if you don't have those three right, it's going to affect your results, not just in business, but in your life. What's the point of getting to 45? You're 173 kilos and you've got $10 million in the bank and you drop dead of a heart attack. Well, what's the point of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to make sure we look at all of those areas. And so holistic, mental, emotional, physical, and also spiritual, right? Now, you touched on Abraham Hicks. Yep. So the first time you see some Abraham Hicks content, if you're not open to it, it can be quite confronting, right? And maybe some real disbelief around the whole thing. So how did Abraham Hicks messages come into your life, and were you ready to receive that sort of guidance, and how did you navigate what you learned there?
I want to thank Matt Elliott, Warriors Canberra rugby league coach, that I spent 3 or 4 days in a room discussing leadership, and we swapped some IP with each other. It was like playing cards. I'll give you this slide if you give me that slide, okay? Because we knew different things. And Matt's now on ABC Radio, and he does he does amazing things for people. He's all focused about mental health and mental wellness. That's really his passion.
Yep.
Right. And so that's how Abraham and Hicks came into my life. And you've got to be honest with yourself. Where are you on that scale right now?
Yeah.
Just smiling doesn't mean you're happy.
Exactly.
I don't feel smile that I'm miserable.
Yeah.
And if you are lower down on that scale, why are you there? Let's discuss this, and then let's come up with a plan to move you up that scale. Okay?
Yeah. And again, I wrote this in my article I wrote yesterday. It's so much of it comes from people's resistance, just allowing themselves to feel wherever they're up to. So when we get to this place of sadness or anger, when we suppress it, that actually takes us further down that scale. But when we actually just go, yeah, well, this is where I'm at, we acknowledge it and we let that emotion in, then we actually give ourselves permission in our heart to start moving forward. So
correct. You remove a blockage if you do that, but you've got to be willing to be led. It takes humility to be led.
So our ultimate leader is ourself, right? So if we're
lead yourself before you can lead others.
Yeah. So what is the best bit of advice you could give people from that space around emotional health on how they can lead themselves going forward, particularly at a time now where it is a challenging time to be living?
That's an easy answer for me because it changed my life. And the question I'll ask whoever's watching this right now is, you need to write their name down. Who leads you?
Yeah.
What gives you the right to lead me if you're not led by someone, Ian? Why should I listen to you? What, you know everything, do you?
No.
Okay. So I'm led by a CEO, global CEO in the US today. My mentor's CEO. He's 56, I'm 57.
Yeah.
And he speaks into my life. He makes me accountable for my thinking, my family, and my wellness. Now that gives me the authority. I'm leading myself to now lead you, Ian, to speak into your life. And I get wisdom. I take wisdom from who leads me. But guess what? He's being led by someone as well. And if you look at all successful people in life, like, you know, I've got the good fortune to, golf's a passion of mine. And I've played golf with some amazingly successful people.
Yeah.
And they will tell you that without the advisors they surround themselves with, without being led, without having mentors, without having someone challenging them, they wouldn't be where they are today, because you can't get to the top of the mountain on your own, which means you've got to be willing to be led. And that's what my business leadership dynamics was all about when it started in 2003, because I saw the impact that it had on my own life when I look at where I started.
Yeah.
And then 15 years later, where I was.
Massive, right? So when you're being a coach or a mentor, right, leading does not mean telling someone what to do. I think you touched on it just then. It's actually helping people to be able to make their own decisions so that, as you said, they can lead themselves. So what are some of those real, like, I know you have many questions, but is there a couple of real key questions that you help people to go within and actually be able to ask themselves that question from a heart space to help them move forward?
Yeah, if your thinking doesn't change, nothing changes. So what do you need better thinking about? If I was leading you right now, Ian, if there's one thing that you need better thinking about, for me, it was about how to forgive my mum.
Yeah.
That was 15 years ago, right? I had to get my thinking around that. Another thing that I say is your past isn't your future. 12 months from now, where do you want to land? We can't change the past. It's done.
Yeah.
We've got to live today and focus on the future. I also have a template that I use with new people. It's called Be More. We can be more than what we are. I can be right now. You can be right now. And there's 11 behaviors you need to grow to be more. So I use that template to bring about a dramatic change in behaviors, because it changes the way that person thinks that I can actually be more if I do these 11 behaviors.
So what would you say to someone who's going through really difficult times and they can't get out of that loop in their head where their thinking is spiraling down and down and down?
Who leads you? Who's leading you? If you haven't got someone that's leading you, you've got to find that person that you can trust that's going to lead you. Another thing that I say to people is how much you're prepared to pay to love your life. You have to invest in yourself. If you're not loving your life and loving the journey and not getting to where you want to go, You need advice. Otherwise you'd know.
So I get that. So, like, from my own experience, there are certain times where you're not, from different challenges you face in your past, from different patterning that you described, where you're not like, I'm kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum to you, right? So I'm more in that sensory place. And I know because a lot of the people that I coach, that they are in that same space, that all of that pushing in the world and saying you've got to find someone, until they're actually ready within themselves to change, they're not reaching out to someone. So how would you, or how have you helped someone who's stuck emotionally and they can't even get their head around finding help? You might have even faced someone like that in your personal life where you can see they're going through it. How would you gently help them to cross that bridge so that they're not stuck in that place of just adding more thinking to an already busy brain?
I believe that when you grow people, you grow organizations. So it's about, what can I do to grow this person? What can I do to empower this person to make them feel better about who they are? What holds people back from success is their self-worth, their self-belief in who they are. There are always going to be challenges, and there's always going to be disruption, problems. I mean, look at this crazy world we're in right now. 12 months ago, if you told me I can't jump on a plane to fly down to see my parents and my oldest son in the northern beaches of Sydney, and my parents were in Cronulla, I'm living in the Gold Coast, I would have said, what are you talking about? There's 70 planes a day out of the Gold Coast, mate.
Yeah.
Right? So there's always going to be challenges. It's about not losing sight of who we are, what we stand for. So what I do when I connect with people that are really hurting is I want to look at their strengths, and I'm going to empower them on 5 or 6 key strengths that they have in their personality, that if they get real deliberate and focus and grow those strengths, it's going to grow their self-worth. We all hear about our weaknesses. We know what we're not good at, and too much time is spent on that side instead of, what am I good at? What are my strengths? And we start empowering that person, and we start filling up their heart and filling up their spirit, that I can climb, I can keep climbing, I can do this. But you've got to find the right person that's authentic, that's going to speak that into your heart and speak that into your spirit.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, to me, that's probably the biggest lesson, is like, when we don't just go out and find any mentor or coach or leader, it's got to be someone that connects with us through our heart. And when we do that, then that's when we're actually going to be able to get that forward progress. You touched on something.
When I start a new relationship, I say to that new person, it is up to me to earn and re-earn your trust. Not you. I've got to earn and re-earn your trust, because if I earn your trust and I re-earn it, you will continue to want to follow me and grow and change. If I break your trust, the relationship's over. And we've all been through broken relationships because of trust issues. We've all been in a room where we didn't want to sit next to that person that was sitting next to us because we don't trust them. And that's not a good place to be. And so I believe when you lead people, it's the responsibility of that leader to earn and re-earn trust of the team and the people they lead. The lowest level of leadership is title. I'm the business owner. I'm the head coach. I'm the boss. I'm the school teacher. I don't care who you are, mate. It doesn't mean I'm going to trust you. It doesn't mean I'm going to go over that mountain with you. What are you going to do for me earn my trust that you're authentic and you're the real deal? That's what real leadership is. That's when people will start wanting to follow you because of what you've done for them. You're impacting their life. And that's how you then start moving that person that's in a real difficult situation, as you said, they start moving forward.
Yeah. So when you say earn and re-earn, so are you saying there may be a moment where that trust is lost, or is that like an extension of?
You keep earning trust. It doesn't mean trust is broken. You give more. You gave better advice. You gave them something to read that impacted their life. You helped their kids with something. So
you're increasing that level of trust by taking them on a journey where you keep adding to that
The highest level of leadership is to give to others. It's not what give me something. It's what can I give you? What can I do to help you? John Maxwell calls it servanthood leadership. That's the highest level of leadership. Leaders serve other people, not I want you to serve me, Ian. No, how can I serve you? So that's what I did at Manly between 05 and 011 with Des Hasler. And I remember Desi gave me a call in 05 when we first started. He'd done 10 games and we started the journey. And you know, whether you follow rugby league or not, you don't become an elite head coach if you're a dummy, okay? And you're persistent and driven, and you start growing man management skills. Well, these are very intelligent men that lead young men to their dreams, the holy grail, winning an NRL premiership. And when I started at Manly in 05, I did a 2-hour presentation to Des on what I do in corporate, because he wanted someone corporate to come in with different thinking, independent, that hadn't played footy, to challenge his players to grow them, right? So he knocks on my car window as I'm backing out of Narrabeen. I'll never forget this. It was February 2005. Manly hadn't made the finals for 10 years. In 05, we made the finals and then we won premierships, right? So it was the very beginning of the journey. And he said, Godsey, I don't want you to help me win football games. And I said, well, what do you mean, Des? You don't want me to win football games? He said, I want you to grow these players into better human beings. And if you grow them into better human beings, we're going to win football games. Grow them.
Yeah, love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've got business owners that get that. I've got elite sporting coaches that get that. But most people don't get what he just said.
I think that businesses are now starting to catch on, and from the people I know and the businesses that I've seen, the businesses that are thriving now through this challenging time, they know that they're heart-centered, they're about giving first, then everything starts to unfold because that's where they come from. So for you in your business, you mentioned giving and you've talked about your purpose around leadership to be better humans. But what is the big giving? So when you go deeper purpose of what you're trying to achieve, once you create better humans, what does that create in the world? What's the impact you want to have there?
Unity and harmony, forgiveness, gratefulness, influence, the right influence, better thinking, accountability, respect, love, grace.
Yeah, you had me at unity and harmony, mate, and we share that same dream, right? That's a lot of what got me into business, and it's what drives me forward now, right? To be able to bring more of that in the world, and I'm still a believer, and I will not lose this belief that whatever we're going through now will take us to more unity and harmony. I have a belief in humanity that we will continue to move forward and get better. And so even through these difficult times that we will come out, this too shall pass, right? We'll come out the other side and we'll find ways to make things better. So right now in your business, you're looking at ways to do things differently because everyone is. So how are you looking to come out the other side of this to do things better and to be able to connect more with your people and deeper?
That's a really good question. With what I do in leadership dynamics, my clients have half-day or full-day sessions with me, and not everyone can afford my fees, and I've only got so much time, and I don't choose who calls me, but I've got to be convinced that they want to grow and change to be a better leader of their business or a better husband or a better father, but I'm not a life coach. I'm a leader. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. But, after 32 years of being in business for myself, there's a lot that I can share to bring about a change in thinking, to bring about change in behaviours, which will change results. So I've had many, many people over the years say, Peter, what you're doing for us, you've got to reach more people. So I've written my next book. Your business shouldn't need you. Start to replace yourself in 180 days. A lot of business owners that I come in contact with are burnt out. The business relies on them. And my business, my clients are small to medium-sized business owners or elite sporting coaches. You have to teach elite sporting coach the same principles because they work 24/7. Sometimes they don't sleep for 2 days after a loss, and that's not sustainable either, right?
Yeah.
It's a high-performance winning environment. It's about what can we do so that everything doesn't just rely on us. And based upon writing that book, which was going to be launched mid-March when COVID hit, that's coming out now, I also, over the last 7 years, developed an online leadership development program called Leading for Growth, okay?
Yep.
Which has 12 videos broken into 3 10-minute bits. So it's 10 minutes a week, plus an online personal accountability workbook that will make you personally accountable with me talking to you like this, but it's different to it's not like what I do with my normal process, but I want to reach more people. I want to touch and impact more people's lives, building stronger leaders to live better lives. And I've got no doubt that people take that journey with me, just doing that module each month. Yeah. It'll impact and change their thinking. It'll change their family life. It'll change their health and wellness.
I don't doubt that. We talked about before about, you mentioned before about like business owners to step out of their business. I was having this conversation with my kids a few weeks ago, and my wife said, "Oh, well, Dad's not going to retire. He's going to keep doing what he's doing." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I love what I do. In some form or another, I will continue to do what I do because it's one of those things that lights me up." So, what are your plans going forward? I imagine you're someone that leadership is not your business. Leadership is who you are. So what are your plans for the future, right?
Yeah, I want to grow the Leading for Growth community now. It's a new world I'm going into, the online world, and I want to do a fortnightly what would you call it? An hour with me on getting your mind right, getting your thinking right to lead for growth. In addition to the video program, I'm going to write more books. Definitely. I've got a lot more content in me that I think I can share with people. Yeah. It's interesting to see that I'm on 3 advisory boards now that clients have put me on at a board level, a higher level, independent thinking because they trust me that much. They want me at the board level. So I mean that's sort of where I'm going, the new journey for me. And when I say your business shouldn't need you, it shouldn't need you. It doesn't mean you don't have your business. It doesn't mean you don't turn up your business. But if it relies on you, like a brand new client that started with me 10 days ago that hasn't had a holiday basically in 9 years, in the trade industry, makes good money, young family, and now after 9 years he realises, I can't keep doing this. Something's got to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? That's what I'm all about with leadership, getting stronger leaders around you, so everything doesn't just rely on you.
Yeah, being a leader and helping people, it takes a lot of energy, right? And I believe that the people that are doing the helping and the guiding and the leading, they're the ones that actually need the most time off and the most help from an outside perspective. So how often are you prioritizing your rest? For me, every quarter, I'm having at least 5 days off to recharge so I can come back knowing that after that break, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be able to serve my people on the highest level. How do you make sure that you keep your already high energies at that maximum capacity?
Well, I'm going to golf this afternoon after this, Ian, and I'm going to show the golf course with the ducks, the world's greatest golfer that no one knows about. Me, okay, right? So, that's a big part of my life. Because I've always worked from home, this is not a new world to me, like what's going on in the world right now. So I've been able to take 3 days off at a time or go to Europe for a 4-week holiday so I'm very aware of getting that when I've got to switch off and get the balance. So the NRL season's coming to an end, and that's a real, what do you call it? It's just full on. It just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the time when I now will take a deep breath as well. And I'll have probably 5 to 6 weeks off between, early December to mid-January. That's a big break for me. So, yeah. So I have things planned out because you've got to rest. You've got to switch off.
100%. And you've been winding me up about our mate Doc on the golf course. And so would have to be one of the first things you do when the borders go down is to make sure you give him a good lesson on the course again too, right?
He won't want to be beaten by me again. He gets a bit sooky when I do that.
Very good. Very good. So if you had 5 minutes to address the world right now, what would you be saying to them?
What can you be grateful about? That'd be my opening question.
Yeah.
What can you be grateful about? Your past isn't your future. What are you focused on? Where do you want to land 12 to 18 months from now? Do you have the right people around you? Because if you get the wrong people around you, it's going to bring negative energy and negative thinking into your life. And sometimes in life, we've got to make tough decisions and leave people behind. That's what leaders do. That's how people become successful.
Yeah.
What books are you reading? I had this conversation with someone yesterday. What books are you reading? He said nothing. I said, well, how's that going for you? Smart people write books. So then I said, let's create a habit. And this is how I started to read books. 15 minutes a day. Read a positive book, 15 minutes a day. Listen to a positive podcast, 15 minutes a day. It takes 90 days to create a habit. If it becomes a habit, it becomes part of your life.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm teaching people now to create a meditation habit for that same process, right? We don't start with a meditation habit by trying to do an hour every day. We start with something small and achievable, right?
Correct. Small, 15 minutes a day.
If we want to do push-ups every day, we don't start with one commitment to one. So on the subject of meditation, you're doing a lot of thinking and a lot of different things, and you've got a lot of different thoughts and ideas coming through your head. How do you take time to switch off from all that thinking to make sure when you go back into that work environment to lead, that you're actually able to do that optimally?
I take my 2 spoodle puppies for a walk every day, 3 to 5 kilometres on the beach.
Yeah,
I
nice.
love being near the water, or when I walk the golf course and I just think, I focus on certain powerful thoughts. And I let's say I dream, I get vision of things that I want to have happen in my life. In this world, we either have hope or hopelessness. Well, I choose to have hope. And whoever's watching this now, I don't have the perfect life. No one has the perfect life. I have challenges just like you. I've shared a little bit about my story today. The biggest thing that I visualize is when my son Jared broke his neck 6 years ago, which I shared with you. He's 24 years of age. And he has been, and this family has been to hell and back with that journey. It has really scarred him. His dream was to be a pro footballer. So for 6 years, we've been trying to heal our son to help him move. And that's the biggest thing I meditate on right now. And what can I be grateful about that son I have at 24 years of age? And what can we do to help him move forward? So it's nothing to do with business. It's nothing to do with making money. It's actually a personal thing.
Yeah.
Which fills my heart and spirit to keep climbing, to keep going. It's very deep. It's very personal to give me that energy. Yeah.
And it's amazing, isn't it? Because so many people prioritize their business and their work over everything else. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, what's most important? Our own health and our relationships and health of our family. So getting that in the right order. An interesting thing happens when you get that balance right and you prioritize those areas. Business seems to take care of itself, right?
Correct. And I've got clients today that were in a world of hurt. that have replaced themselves in their business, but they're still the business. They sit at the board or they're the CEO, but they've got strong people, strong culture, a high-performance team around them. The environment is a growth environment. It's motivated. It's inspiring. And their marriages have got better and they are healthier, which is that whole big picture I focus on. And when I started Leadership Dynamics, that was the focus. Well, to build stronger leaders to live better lives, if you don't grow better thinking, better family life, and better health, you're not going to live a better life.
No.
I don't care how much money you got. It didn't help Steve Jobs. When we get it, my mentor was very, very wealthy. He passed away 7 years ago from esophageal cancer.
Yeah, wow.
Right? Money's not going to it's while we're on earth, we've got to get everything right.
That's it. We only get one crack at it, so let's give it all we've got. So you've kindly provided an offer for anyone watching this, and you're giving them some pretty special deals if they join up to your online Leadership Dynamics program, Lead for Growth, that it's called. So before we finish, what would you like to share that you haven't already shared about that program? And
Leading for Growth's been developed over the last 7 years. It's been reshot 4 times to make it the right product, I believe, to take to the market, to offer a personalised one-on-one program with me. But it's different to what I do with normal clients. But 10-minute investment of time a week, probably another 10 to 15 minutes with the online workbook to grow your personal accountability. There's 12 videos. $297 for all 12 videos. And, you know, for anyone that's watching this right now, if they register and say I was on Ian's conference interview with Coxie, I will do a free personality profiling of them in their entire business, and I'll give them a bucket load of feedback about what I see with the people they have around them. And that's valued at $750 of what I normally charge a client to do that. So that would be free, but they need to say that I was on the live webinar. I've watched the automated tape of this, and that's how I got involved with the program.
Yeah. So that's incredible value, people. So if you're wanting to improve your leadership and the language that Coxie is using, the words he's using, and if there's any there that resonates, then like to have one-on-one time with him for free, basically by joining this program at a very affordable price, that is an absolute bargain. So if you're any interest, jump at it. Thank you so much for giving that offer to my people. Hopefully some of your people have jumped on this as well. We'll share this on other platforms as well so they can get a look. Coxie, I'm so appreciative of your time today. I was quite honoured when you said you don't do this for everyone. You get a fair few requests. So thank you. You've given some tremendous value, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Ian. And I just want to encourage whoever's has watched this, that you can be more than what you are right now, and keep climbing. Just keep climbing. Never give up.
Love it. Thanks, mate.